Join me as you and I and you take a journey to become better writers together and geek out. Hello there, Apple Bites. This is Writtenwrit, Ralph talking to you straight from our show here, the Writtenwrit. Of course, today we got our friend Dirk Manning, and of course, our guests Jordan, Gage, Tony, and Nat.
Hello.
Me, Tony, and Nathan are just guests now, huh?
That's all we ever were.
Or hosts, I should say.
I've been called worse.
I missed too many episodes. I've been demoted. So.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Oh man!
Yeah, you're just a guest for the show.
Hey, Shan.
Hey, Shan.
Chat.
Hi, Shan.
So I gotta say, Dirk, you are on fire. That thing like lit up, and you funded it in like a minute, and now you're like double on your money. If I'm looking at this right.
Yeah, we just hit. Sorry, I was just trying. Whoa, sorry. I was just trying to be cheerful. Sorry, okay, I'm better now. No, we just actually hit just a couple minutes before we went on the air here at writerwrongbook.com. 100 backers. Yeah, we're about $150 a change away from our next stretch goal. So the second stretch goal already, and this is all on the second day of the campaign.
Wow.
So it's pretty wild, man. I'm blown away. Like I was joking about, right before going on the air, I've got con brain, I got Kickstarter brain right now. It's just absolutely wild. It's just really fun, and I'm really excited. I'm really honored. And yeah, it's going well. Let's go. It's a trip.
It's funny though, because dude, I was like all over the place with this thing. Every time I turn around, I'm posting something else up, and I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't realize how much stuff I had made. Hi, Charles. What's up? How you doing?
It's cool. That thing with Kickstarter. We were talking about this before we went on the air too. It's like you get in that zone where it's like posting on social media is like throwing red paint in the ocean.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes, everyone sees the red splash.
Mm-hmm.
After 10 minutes, it's like it was never there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you always feel like, oh, someone miss it. Inevitably. Doesn't matter how many times I've done this now. The day after a Kickstarter ends, someone get a hold of me like, oh, I didn't know you were running a campaign.
Exactly.
It's like, I have a newsletter. I've got Instagram. I got Facebook. God help me, I have Twitter. It's all there. It's like, well, I've been mainly on TikTok. Like, I'm not on TikTok very much.
But that's what it is, man. But see, I put my stuff up on TikTok, so they don't have that excuse.
Wait, so you're saying you don't get like those people who's like, are you going to be like at any shows because I didn't have the money to buy this book at the time? But you never get any of those?
No, I mean, that happens too, of course. And the thing I always tell people with Kickstarter is the Kickstarter is an opportunity to support not only the creation of the book, but the way I do Kickstarters is that by doing the Kickstarter, you also get potentially a bunch of extra free stuff if you get back in early.
Exactly.
But I'm really big on the fact that, if you can't support the Kickstarter, that's fine. I get it. Things come up. Transmission goes out or whatever. But by backing the Kickstarter, not only are you involved in the actual creation of the book, but you get a bunch of bonus stuff too. But if you want to get at a show down the road, you can do that as well.
You do get the con exclusives, and I feel like you actually do it right. You actually have Kickstarter exclusives. I find that some people call them Kickstarter exclusives. Then somewhere down the line in the con, they're like, hey.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, there's so many factors that go into this stuff. Obviously you always want to print a little bit of overage for damage and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I know there's been, some friends of mine, I've had friends on both sides of this argument. It's like, how can we Kickstarter exclusive if later on someone got one? But you do really want to honor the exclusivity as much as possible. But But at the same time, it's like if we printed an extra 20 copies and we have 5 left over after damages, it's like I don't mind saving them for a mystery box down the road, or putting them in like another Kickstarter pledge or something like that. But I will tell you also, there are books that I've done that are Kickstarter exclusive that years later I had to go find copies myself because they were that rare, right? Tales of Mystery Volume 1 hardcover, perfect example. Good luck. Good luck finding one of those anywhere. Yeah, I see George is like, yeah. And if you do see one, it's not going to be cheap because that was the first Kickstarter book I ever did. Right. So not only is it the first hardcover of a now 5-volume and counting series, but the print run on the original Tales of Mystery hardcover, extremely low. You know, that's like my No Life Till Leather demo for Metallica. You know, it's like, good luck. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's tough. So if you want that Kickstarter exclusive stuff, the best thing to do is jump into the Kickstarter.
Exactly. And I know that little controversy that you're talking about. Actually, I was reading through some of my Facebook posts, and somebody had actually posted something up like that, and somebody had gotten upset because they ended up with some extra copies, like you said. Because sometimes you make extra copies just to make sure that everybody gets what they're supposed to get. And they were saying, "Oh, you should have destroyed those." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What? Why would I destroy perfectly good comics or books or whatever?"
You want to be careful, right? You want to honor the intention of what you're doing. But it's like, I'll give you a perfect example. Like on the Kickstarter we're doing for Right or Wrong, A Writer's Guide to Creating Comics, the book itself is not a Kickstarter exclusive edition of the book. This is a little bit of a different campaign. Like you said, Ralph, normally when I do a graphic novel, I do a limited edition hardcover, and there's other Kickstarter exclusive content. I did this campaign a little bit differently because it's not a comic. It's a writing book. Right or Wrong is my pay it forward project. This is to help other creators who want to make comics and things like that. There you go. Right. We really could. So, but what I am doing with this campaign is I'm offering a limited amount of the desk Dirk, the Dirk Manning. And now George has got to get up. Look out.
You have to piece in there.
But we have there you go. There's only a limited amount of these figures, but to your point, I thought about that. I'm like, what if at the end of the 20 Years of Terror tour, what if at the end of this, I just if I have 20 or 30 left or whatever, what if I just like you said, burn them, get rid of them? I'm that would be so. Part of me would be funny, because that way the only people that got them, and I think I'd never be tempted to sell them again later. But at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about bringing people joy, giving something they want. If you want a little desk Dirk to keep on your desk to remind you about in 20 years, you too may not have a pension, but maybe you'll get an action figure.
Exactly.
Right.
But that would make an interesting video, just burning the stuff in a giant bonfire.
I see that, Jeff. There was a Kickstarter creator years ago that burned all of his Kickstarter stuff.
Wow.
And I don't think he fulfilled it. It was a big controversy. But that's the thing. It's
wow, that does bad.
Yeah, it was nuts. He had a mental. I don't want to say that. I don't know all the details, but I know there's a big controversy. He burned a bunch of Kickstarter books online. But yeah, at the end of the day, you want to honor that, because when you do Kickstarters, you're doing a contract with people. You're doing a business transaction, saying you're going to get this cool stuff, and then in the case of the graphic novels, you're going to get a Kickstarter exclusive that you can't get in stores. You will not be able to get easily, if at all, later. So you just want to honor that. You want to treat people right in that regard. Honor the intent of the platform and what you're doing.
Important, yeah, because these people are supporting you in a certain way, so you want to honor all that. But at the same time, the whole reason why you get the extra books is to make sure everybody gets a good copy of them.
Well, that's exactly right. I'll tell you, I don't know if I've ever talked about this publicly or not. The second to last campaign we did for the Tales of Mystery Act 1 omnibus, when we did that when I did the free upgrade to the leather bound, a whole, that one right there.
Yeah.
And I know Jordan got it covered. A whole box of them got destroyed.
Whoa.
Oh, damn.
I mean, right. And of course, it's bad enough if it's like the trade paperback edition, but this was the limited edition, leather-bound, gold-gilded pages ones. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get financially compensated and at least get your money back on those, but with a product like that, it's not about the money, it's about the books.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
can't just go back to the factory. Hey, can you print me one extra box? Right? That's not how it works when you're doing a 500-page leather-bound, gold-gilded page. You know, I mean, even if you can get the money back, you can't reprint them. So again, the leather-bound Act One omnibus of Tales of Mystery. Good luck. I mean, there's some stores out there that have copies and stuff that bought in, but that's going to be a book down the road that's going to be really, really tough to find. The rarity scarcity issue with Mystery continues.
And it is. I can see that it's pretty difficult to find some of these books. And if Jordan is nodding his head over there, that says a lot.
Jordan doesn't have it. That's when you know legit.
Exactly, Jordan.
Right.
So Dirk, this is a little different. I love this book. I got this book even before I met you, because I read somebody do a review on the book itself and how good it was for people who were trying to get into the business to read, and I completely agree with that. Tell people what this book is. Tell them all the nitty gritty stuff. Give them the spiel, because I feel like people need to know what this book is.
I appreciate that. So, Right or Wrong, A Writer's Guide to Creating Comics. What I'm offering on Kickstarter is a second edition of the original version of Right or Wrong. Right or Wrong was a column that I started years ago at Newsarama. Eventually moved over to Bleeding Cool, and it was the impetus of the column that became the book was very simple. I told myself when I started down my journey to become a comic book writer that if I ever started getting to the point when I was actually making comics, that I would do everything I could to help other people make comics. That's it, right? I mean, that was the promise I made. I said, man, if I ever get to this point, I'm help other people. So I started the column, and then the column eventually became the book. I still very much stand by the original edition of Right or Wrong, but in the years since it's come out, while the information in the book and the anecdotes and the lessons are timeless, as I was preparing to write volume 2, I found that there was some stuff that was maybe a little bit outdated in regards to technology references and just some changes in the industry, prices you should be expecting to pay, your collaborators and things like that. So originally I thought, well, okay, I'll just do a really soft edit on the book and then just re-release the new edition through SourcePoint Press.
Right.
I won't even tell everybody it's a new edition, right, really, or maybe just do a little badge second edition. What ended up happening, as is my way, is when I started digging into it, I kind of ended up George Lucasing things a little bit. Yeah, thank you. I'm amongst my people to get that joke. I ended up adding about 30% new and updated material. So the 215-page book jumped to 260 pages.
Damn.
And I ended up putting in about more than 24 photos and graphics into the book now. I added a new epilogue to the book as well as a new foreword talking about the difference between this book and the original. It still follows the exact same structure. All the chapters are exactly the same. Again, with the exception of the new introduction and the new epilogue chapter that actually talks about what was going on when I was writing this book for the first time.
Nice.
But it's a book that I joke with people that it's half inspirational, half educational, half entertaining. I'm not very good at math, as you can tell. But this is a book about following your creative endeavors and managing the struggles that come with it. And I talk about the successes I've had, and I talk about the failures I've had. And while the focus of the book is writing for comics, especially if you don't draw, if you love comics and you want to make a comic, this book has launched many careers. In fact, I was at a convention earlier on this tour, and a writer from Marvel Comics came up to me and was talking to me about how much the column helped him, and he's now a pretty high-profile Marvel writer.
Nice.
So what's that?
He just said
Oh, okay. So, but also the biggest compliment I've ever gotten about Right or Wrong is how this book helps so many people, regardless of what your creative passions are. You know, on the video, which Ralph was very generously contributed part to the video for the Kickstarter page. You can go to writearoundbook.com, go to Kickstarter, look up Right or Wrong. There's a video on there. Some of the writers in there are not comic book writers, but they've used Right or Wrong to launch their careers. And Rebecca Rainier is an example. She does women's fiction. She, got familiar with my work and what I do, and now she does that professionally as well. My editor on the book, Neil Letterman, talks about how, talked about how this book helps realize her passion. She's now a professional published writer, not of comics, but of novels. I've had musicians talk to me. I've had artists talk to me about this book and how much it helped them. So, again, ultimately, it is an entertaining book in and of itself, and it's an informative book in and of itself. But ultimately, I want this to be a book just to help give people a guide to follow their creative passions. That's all.
One of the great things about that, especially the whole reason I started the Writtenwrit was because of that. Because I finished reading all this stuff back here, and I said, "Okay, I feel like something's missing." And something is missing because there's this journey that happens after you read all the stuff and you start to be a writer. And that's the fact of, because doing all that writing that you're supposed to do to become that writer. But, they kind of tell you about it, but they don't really tell you about it.
Yeah, I remember going to conventions back in the day, and I talk about this in the book, when I was flat broke, man. Flat broke. Like, I literally had enough money to get to the convention, get back, eat one meal at McDonald's, as long as I spent for $4, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But going to conventions, to go to panels, to listen to people like your Joe Casadas and your Mark Wades. And
yeah.
I talk in the book how I weaseled myself into a meeting with Axel Alonso, who was the editor at DC Comics Vertigo line. May it rest in peace. Moment of silence for Vertigo.
I can see you fit perfectly into Vertigo.
Yeah, that was my goal when I started. I wanted to write books that could have been published under Vertigo.
Right.
And going to these conventions, though, just looking for that guidance, because I was in a position where it's like, I know I have the ability. I know I have the ability. I know I can write. It's that put me in coach mentality, right? Just put me in coach. You'll see how far I can throw the ball. You'll see how fast I can run. But that's not the way it works.
No, it's not.
And people like Axel Alonso and Brian Bendis and stuff were very kind to me when I was starting. But part of that was because I was in the room. I got in the room. I got in front of them. I talked to them about it. So again, with the book, I always said, I will do whatever possible to help pay it forward to other people who want to make comics if I get to that point. Now this is my 20th anniversary as a published comic book writer. I have 20 graphic novels published.
Damn.
Most of which are creator owned. Yeah, not issues. 20 graphic novels. And I'm continuing to pay it forward. I took the time to do this, to do Right or Wrong, put this up on Kickstarter, writearoundbook.com. It's my pay it forward project. That's very important to me, to pay it forward, to help other people maybe learn from my successes, but also learn from my mistakes so they can avoid them. And there's no one way to make comics, but at least I can talk about my way, and I can talk about some of the universal truths.
I think it's one of the reasons I liked your book so much was it wasn't this is how you have to do it. It was more like, well, look, these are the things I did, and this is what happened, and this is the things you could do, and it talks in general. And I feel like I agree with people as a comic book writer and as a writer, the book works both ways. Really kind of helps you out in a way that it's not just about comic book writing; it's about writing in general. And I feel like that's where you succeeded, was because it's more about writing. You maybe want to doing the comic book writing, and this might help you. But I feel like it's like, if you want to write, check this book out.
I appreciate that, man, because that's really what it's about. Like you said, there is no one way, and there are books out there about how to write a script. Right? There's books about how to lay out a page.
Yep.
but they always leave that middle part out. It's like learn to write a script, comics. I talk about that middle part, right? that meat in this. I feel like they give you both pieces of bread, but not the meat.
Exactly.
So right or wrong is intended to be the meat. And anybody who's interested in writing and following creative passions, again, it's an opportunity to invest. Oh, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and let's do the Kickstarter. It's going on right now.
Yeah, do the Kickstarter right now. Free U.S. shipping as well. I'm not out to beat anybody up on this stuff. We know shipping's getting more and more expensive, but what you see is what you pay. For the U.S. And it's just something to help people out that want to make comics. I mean, that's it. And it's an investment in yourself as well.
It is.
That's the other thing that I like to tell people is when you set forth on any creative journey, you're going to be investing. You're going to be investing time. You're going to be investing energy. You're going to be investing financial capital, money. With Right or Wrong, I offer the book through the Kickstarter for $25, free shipped right to your house. And right now, we've already unlocked the first stretch goal. So with your pledge, as long as your pledge includes Right or Wrong, you will get a digital copy of the first issue of the second volume of Hope for free. Yeah, if you scroll down, you'll see it on here. So you'll get a digital comic, Hope number 1 from Sourcepoint Press, right there. You also then get the full script to the first issue of Hope Volume 2. So you can read the comic, then read the script, see how they match up. But then on top of that, I'm also including a free commentary track about this is how I approach this book. This is how I approach working with this artist. And this is some of the stuff. So again, I really just want to pay it forward to people, give them free comics. You can have an actual full sample script. That's something I would have killed for when I was getting started, right?
Definitely.
I remember buying the old Watchmen Graffiti edition because I had samples of Alan Moore scripts in there just to see what the comic strip looks like. And that's free as long as your pledge includes the book.
I see what you're doing there. You're doing exactly what the book is telling you to do. It talks about the relationship between you and the artist. It talks about, so you're giving them a sample of exactly what you told them in the book.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, right? I mean, paying it forward and just trying to live by it. I mean, yeah, yes, you're exactly right.
I gotta admit, I find it like there were so many books I've read about writing, and I know you've done it too. And you sit there, and sometimes you finish the book and you go, "That was inspiring." Sometimes you finish the book and you go, "What the hell did I just read?" When I read your book, I was like, "Oh, okay, I get this." And it's funny because I had written comic book scripts, I had written all that stuff before, and I was like, "Okay," but I still felt kind of funny when I was doing it. And then I had actually worked on a couple of books that I was trying to get to print. And I realized as I was doing that sometimes when you get with certain artists, things happen, things go a certain way. But I didn't think about it until I read it in your book, where I was like, oh, the relationship with the artist is important because you're working with this person.
Well, that's it, and I've talked to people before about even in how we use our language, our internal language as well as our external language. Yeah. Things like when a writer will say, "Oh, well, my artist," and I tell people, "Hold on, that's not your artist. That's a fellow professional who wants to be paid a living wage to do this, or at least wants to create work. That is a fellow professional." In fact, there's a whole chapter in the book about this called "They're Not Robots," right? As a writer, it's very important to recognize that everyone you work with, be it a letterer, be it an editor, be it an illustrator, be it a colorer, be it an inkist, being it the guy that lays out your book and designs it for you, they are fellow professionals, and maybe you'll work together forever, and maybe you will become like a Garth Ennis, a John McCrae, or what have you. Pick your power couple in comics, like Jimmy and Amanda, Azzarello and Rizzo, whatever. But maybe not. Maybe you work together for a time, and then you go your own separate ways. That's okay too. But yeah, I just want to have a real frank conversation with people. And for better or for worse, the book is written like I'm talking to you right now. Hopefully, without as many run-ons. but it's conversational. It's just, let's have a talk about this. This is a guide. Let me just give you some guidance that I've learned about going through this process.
I think it's one of the reasons I like this so much is because it feels like it's a conversation. It feels like, it's like we do here on the show. We like doing that conversation that happens normally at a convention across the table, because you have some fascinating conversations. I know me and you have had a couple of great conversations at the convention.
Right. Well, that's exactly it, right? And it's one of those situations where, again, I remember like having zero money and like sleeping on floors to go to a convention, to go sit in that panel for an hour just to learn what I could learn.
Right.
And sometimes at a convention, like at shows like New York, it's so busy, and more, I think more conventions moving forward, I can talk to people for a minute, and I got to keep reading, and you got to move on. You got to talk to the next person. So you give everybody a few minutes,
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, I may not be able to sit down with you and talk to you for 3 or 4 hours straight, although there is a pledge level where you get a one-on-one consultation.
There you go.
But but if you're willing to invest, $25 in yourself, here's everything. Here's 260 pages that I can talk about everything. You can go back to it. You can highlight it, make notes. And I tell everyone that buys the book, it's like, if you got questions after you read this, you see me at a show or something like that, or reach out, I can. And I'll tell you what I can tell you, but read the book first.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's why I spent all the time putting this book together to help you out. But if you read the book and then you got a question, like about this thing here, you mentioned this. We can do that conversation in a much quicker, much more efficient fashion.
Well, let's do this quick question then.
Yes, sir.
This is sort of feeling a bit like, those textbooks where they say, oh, you have to get the newest edition.
Oh, right.
So in that sense, we know that in the case of a textbook, a lot of things don't really change that much, but every now and then there's that one section that had that major overhaul that almost isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
What's that in this new book that you got going on?
Good question.
That's a great question. I would say when I first went back to revise Right or Wrong for a second edition, my biggest concerns were talks about technology. It's like, do we really need to email ourselves copies of our scripts to save them in the cloud anymore? Mm-hmm. No. We have Dropbox, we have Google Drive, stuff like that. So that was a big one, was the technological aspects of it. But the other big one was my chapter Dollars and Cents about the expectations of what's a reasonable price to pay your collaborators.
Right.
That's changed tremendously as well.
I have to.
and the other thing is, like I said, that 30% bonus and newly revised content, a lot of it's just contextual. I mean, when I first started Right or Wrong, I was literally posting Nightmare World as an online comic as I was writing it. Right. As I went back in 2020 and redid the whole book and went through and ended up going through and revising the whole book, I wanted to keep all the original content, but also maybe provide some additional context.
Right.
That now, close to 20 years in the game had taught me. But specifically to your question, the technological aspects as well as the financial aspects are two of the biggest ones. But again, this version of the book, the chapters are all the same. I've just gone through and I've updated the content. I've provided some more context and things like that. And if you've read the original version of the book, reading the new second edition, it'll be like putting on a comfy pair of slippers, right? You can go back and reread it. Still the same shape, same form, but it's just going to give you some additional context and information moving forward.
Sounds good.
Now, is this something that would be just as useful to like an indie creator as it would to someone who was trying to get into like the commercial industry of it, or is it more for people who are looking to get in with like publishers?
Very much. This book is about how to create comics. My goal would be that after you read this book, you will know how you will be able to go forth and create the comic. If you do want to write for corporate companies, if you want to write for Marvel or DC or something like that, you're going to need a comic in your hand to do it. Okay. I talked about this very early in the book. This meeting I had with Axel Alonso. I went up to him, and this is before I had written my first comic, and I said, "Sir, I know I can write. I know I can write. And I had that put me in coach mentality. And he told me, he goes, I cannot read your scripts. And that's something that almost any publisher, any editor that works for a comic book publisher will tell you. They will not read an unsolicited script. Because if I wrote something that happens to be comparable to something that they're already doing, it opens them up for liability purposes. But what he did tell me, he goes, if you make a comic, I'll read it. He goes, I love comics. So right. Again, it's one of those light bulb moments.
Yeah.
And I told him what a lot of people say, as I said, okay, I go, but I don't have the money to pay any artists. And that was true, like that. But I will tell you what.
One of the biggest problems we have, yeah.
The conversation I had with him that I recount word for word in this book is what allowed me to start recalibrating what I was doing to be able to work with artists. One, value is just not financial. So am I offering value to an artist? But two, I don't want to give away the whole story. But one of the things we talked about was, is it that you don't have money, or is it a matter of how you're spending the money you have?
Ooh.
And I'm going to tell you guys another thing. I'm going to be real vulnerable with you about this. The happiest moment, the proudest, maybe not the happiest, but one of the proudest moments of my professional career as a comic book creator was not necessarily getting my first comic published, though that was one of the top moments. It was when I realized I could quit my second job because the comics were now paying for themselves.
Oh man, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Working a day job and doing comics is a lot of work.
But here's the thing. Imagine working a day job, then working a second job to pay for making the comics. That's where I was at when I started, because I did need a little more financial capital to get me over the hump. And being able to quit that second job just to have a day job and do comics.
Nice.
Was amazing, right? It was one of those amazing moments of my life. I'm like, I don't need to do this other thing anymore. Not that I'm making it, because at least the comics, it's not that I was even making money making comics at that point. But it was churning butter, right? The comics were just paying for themselves.
At least.
Yeah. Right. So do you still have the day job?
It's very nice to be able to have health insurance. That's all I'm saying about that. I'll tell you, a lot of creators learned something very valuable in 2020. It's like, what if the conventions go away?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What if the distributors of comics just quit pushing, quit distributing? I know a lot of people that they made their money specifically and primarily at conventions.
Mm-hmm.
2020 did a lot of damage.
2020 was when I started hitting Kickstarter. So that's when I was introduced to comic books on Kickstarter.
Right.
So
yeah, and that was a good side of it. But yeah, I mean, this is stuff that you have to consider. Do you keep a day job in regards to have even part-time? The amount of people in the comic book industry that have a part-time gig just for economic sustainability in the event of something like that. Also, health insurance, things like that. There's a lot of complicated factors here.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pay for the dream somehow.
I'm that guy.
Yeah, and of course, healthcare is one of those things. It's not like we have free healthcare or something like that.
What do you think? We're Canadian, eh?
There's a great line from George Carlin, and he said they call it the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it. And again, I just love the stuff of that line. But again, I say it because when you think about this stuff, when you think about the dream, you have to really think about, okay, what would it take to make this possible? Is this something that you would truly want and you would truly be happy with? And when you have that dream, you have to really ask yourself, is this the thing you want? And if it's really the thing you want, you got to be willing to commit to it wholeheartedly. And just go.
you talk about like being penniless, having $4 for freaking McDonald's, and
Yeah.
you chase that dream. I mean, you have to do that work too.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
You can't just dream about it. You have to be willing to work for it too.
I've had that conversation with countless people in countless contexts. It's like you can have that vision of what you want, but then you have to be able to work towards making it happen and making it possible. And there's going to be obstacles that are in the way all the time, and sometimes the biggest obstacle is ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. But
We're one of the worst obstacles.
sometimes no one can sabotage you like yourself, and I find that sometimes the people that are the most ambitious and have the most potential, oftentimes are the you can be the only one to stop you.
Yeah.
Right. You be the only one to stop you. So it's a situation where you have to untangle that knot and step back and say, what is it I want? And then what am I willing to do to get it? Right. I'm not saying Dirk Manning said go rob a bank to make comics. But going back to right or wrong,
Dang it.
yeah, but going back to right or wrong, was I willing to work a second job to pay for comics?
Yeah.
And once you start making the work and once you start demonstrating what you can do, you'll find your tribe. You'll find those people that believe in you and want to help you out personally and professionally and things like that. I didn't get where I'm at without angels. No one does. I don't care if you can write and draw yourself. No one succeeds in this industry alone. It's impossible.
One of the reasons why we like to say we raise each other up.
Yeah, and I find that a lot of people come to support anyways. If they see you're doing what they dream of doing or what they're doing, so they come to support you even if you did come in writing and drawing on your own,
Sure. A high tide raises all ships, right? It's a very simple concept. But even if you do everything by yourself, building that readership and how you interact and editors and publishers and everything else. And again, and there's people that self-publish and all that. I self-published for a while. I talk about this in Right or Wrong, which you can get at rerelease.com.
There you go.
I've had all these experiences, which is why I try now to pay it forward and share it in the book to help other people realize their dreams too. That's the name of the game. I'm so fortunate. I've had great personal and professional relationships with people that have helped me get to where I've gotten. I've had lifelong friends. I've had friends for a reason. I've had friends for a season.
And not everybody has that mentorship on a personal basis too. So
right, and that's hard to get. So what you do is you write a book. If the earth swallows me tomorrow, this book exists and can help people. That's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm doing it. I've been very fortunate. And I don't use this word lightly, I've been very blessed, by whatever powers that you believe in or magic or whatever. I've been very fortunate to be able to be in this opportunity. To me, that creates in me a sense of responsibility to help pay it forward to other people. And that's what this campaign's about. That's why I appreciate you guys having me on to talk about this.
Oh, no problem. I know you got to go, so let everybody know where they can find you, all the good stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, Right or Wrong, rerelease.com is a Kickstarter. My personal website is dirkmanning.com. You can sign up for a mailing list on there. I do a mailing list once a month, a newsletter once a month. I'm on all reputable social media, including some unreputable social media. At Dirk Manning, just look for the picture they got the top hat and the scarf. That's me. People can just, again, see my convention schedule at my website. They can sign up for the newsletter at my website. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. God help me, I'm even on Twitter at Dirk Manning. But the biggest thing is, if you want to even if you just want to read about the journey of a professional creative, Right or Wrong's for you. But if you have creative aspirations, or someone who has creative aspirations, you can pledge $25, get the book. If you want to get the desk Dirk as well, as a little reminder.
Hey, Mother's Day is right there on Sunday. Mother's Day is right there on Sunday. You can pledge to this book, show them that you did, and give it to them. Come on.
Hey, whatever works. But
Exactly.
honestly, the biggest thing with Right or Wrong is, again, this is just my pay it forward project. So I hope people. I've been very fortunate people know that that's what this is about, see it that way. And again, I'm not hard to find. At dirkmanning.com at all social media, even YouTube at Dirk Manning. You can see past interviews and stuff I've done there. And dirkmanning.com is my website.
I gotta admit, you've done an excellent job at being able to get what you're doing out there easily. Like with this project, those WWWs really help you out. I know we had a lot of fun the last time you did this, and it was like, oh, and we repeated it over and over and over. And that's what we got here, man. Just go check it out. You can't miss this. It's a great book. I completely think you guys should pick this up. It's a great book to have in any writer's repertoire.
I appreciate that, and that's the whole purpose. So, guys, thank you. I'm big fans of all of you, and Ralph, special thanks to you for being willing to help cut one of the little videos as a writer yourself, someone that promotes writing, to be in the video. Thank you for that. So, yeah, if you guys all go to writerwrongbook.com and if you look at the video, you'll get to see some familiar faces in there as well. So
I think what we'll do is when you're out of here, we'll show that video.
So that'll be a perfect chance for me to dip out, right?
And once I'm freed from Facebook jail, I'll start sharing that stuff.
I appreciate you, my friend. Well, thank you guys again so much for having me out.
And Dirk, anytime you want to come and hang out with the geeks, you're more than welcome.
Hey, we're all the same people. So to all of you, my friends, thank you very much. I appreciate everything. I appreciate what you do for everybody. I appreciate letting me crash the party for a bit. And we'll catch up again soon. I got to go send a Kickstarter update right now. So
I know. That's why I'm sending you, because I want you to do that. Go.
Have a good night.
Thank you, friends. I appreciate you.
Give you his money. That's fine.
Little figure too, if you want.
I already got. And that was the one. That was the one I got. Was the combo.
There it is. There it is. All right, friends. I'll talk to you soon.
That was Dirk Manning with Right or Wrong. Go support it. It's an amazing book. I really do feel like any writer or any comic book writer should have this book in their library of books, like I have back here, because it actually talks about writing in a way where it's a more natural conversation of writing.
And it sounds like it's more about his journey and what he learned than how he thinks you should write.
Exactly.
Which is interesting. It's an interesting take. It's not what I expected.
That's what helped me out so much, was that you should do this, or you should. It was him going, well, this is what happened, or this is important, or and that's why I very rarely go get this book, but I'll say it for Right or Wrong. You guys really do need to get this book. And I guess what we'll do, since Dirk is not here right now, let's go to the videotape. Let's see. There we go. Oh, let's see if it plays.
Yeah.
Hello, friends. Dirk Manning here, writer and creator of multiple comic books, many of which are listed on this page. And I'm here today to talk to you about Right or Wrong, a writer's guide to creating comics. And lest we forget, the little Dirk Manning knucklehead figure that you can also get through this campaign. But in all seriousness, if you're watching this video and if you're here on this page, you probably have a pretty good idea of how these videos normally work. Normally, the creator of the book or project, in this case me, would come on and talk to you about why you should support the project. In this case, Right or Wrong, or Writer's Guide to Creating Comics, the second edition of the book, published by SourcePoint Press. I'm going to do things a little bit differently, though, on this video. I've asked some friends who have had experiences with Right or Wrong and are familiar with the book to talk a little bit about why you want to consider supporting this campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and just kick it over to them. Take it away, friends.
When you read Right or Wrong, you'll understand the how and why behind his perseverance, and you'll benefit from the lessons he's learned along the path to writing at any level. Learn from someone who's done it.
If you have an idea in your head, but you can't quite get it out, this book's going to be the one to do it for you.
And even if you aren't starting from the bottom, it's always worthwhile, even with experience and even as someone who's been doing it forever, to see new angles and different perspectives and things that you can take away in your own career as well.
I've read some of Dirk's other stuff. That stuff's really good. So I'm going to assume this is really good.
Dirk's book really inspired me and helped me through the process of finding collaborators, the messy portions of being a creator.
I cannot tell you how many times people have approached me at a Comic-Con to tell me how much this book has meant to them and how much it has helped further their career in the comic book industry.
Get this book. Get this book. It's going to be very helpful in getting your creative juices flowing and getting your book, your comic book, or even any creative endeavor actually off the ground.
I could definitely say that having chats with Dirk about the structure of a comic book and how to set that all up has helped me a ton.
Well, I decided it was about damn time I wrote a comic book. And when I need helps and tips, what do? Why? I turn to Right or Wrong.
Whenever I meet a new writer that wants to do comics, I give him a copy of this book.
So, if anybody's looking to get their foot in the door and need some inspiration as a writer, as an artist, how do you make connections? You should definitely pick it up.
Having that kind of resource is really important because you have a vision. A lot of times you know what you want to do or how you want to see something made, but the practical application of how to get that done, you don't always have the nuts and bolts, and having a tool like that is great. So that's why you should get a copy of Right or Wrong.
It is a great Bible, I guess, for the indie creator starting out in comics, especially. So it is definitely a classic. It's a go-to, and Dirk has written some spectacular content that helps you sort of navigate your way through being an indie creator because nobody else wrote the book on this.
One of the big benefits that I had is it introduced to me how to be more aware of what I was writing, also the voice of what I was writing, characters. Everybody didn't have to talk the same or react the same. Everybody was unique.
Right or Wrong is full of interesting tips and tricks and anecdotes for aspiring writers, and gives them a lot of insight in how best to deal with crazy artists like me.
Dirk Manning's Right or Wrong has helped me in a plethora of ways, from understanding the relationship between a writer and his artist to the script writing process.
I learned how he was doing it, and he's a great example of being a professional author. And that is actually my full-time career now. I write women's fiction novels, and I'm just lucky that I saw how it could happen and how you could do it.
Wouldn't it be great if there was like a resource, a framework, a guide to writing comics, that used personal experience, stories, and anecdotes, real life situations that have happened to teach you right from wrong.
It'll teach you the nuts and bolts to go from being a hobbyist comic creator to a successful one who is armed with the knowledge it takes to succeed in this industry.
Pro tips are good for everyone from first timers to indie creators and even industry professionals. So take my advice and grab this book. Right or Wrong will definitely steer you in the right direction.
Now, don't forget to get your copy of Right or Wrong.
You pick up the book.
Right or Wrong.
Right or Wrong.
Book 2 of Right or Wrong.
Get your copy of Right or Wrong.
To get a copy of Right or Wrong.
You should get your copy.
Right or Wrong. Go get yourself a copy of Right or Wrong.
So get a copy of Right or Wrong.
Make sure you pick up a copy of Right or Wrong today.
You can go to rightorwrongbook.com.
Right or Wrong will definitely steer you in the right direction.
Thank you for watching this video. Thank you to all of you who participated. And to you who are considering supporting this campaign, I urge you to check out the book, invest in yourself. I put this book together for one reason, and that's to pay it forward, to help you as well realize your goal of making the projects you want to make, writing the comics you want to make. So check everything out. Pledge. If you know someone else who could benefit from this, spread the word, and enjoy the journey. Thank you for your time.
There you have it, folks. Right or Wrong, pick up your copy today.
I knew almost everyone in that video.
They're all first type people.
Not all of them. No.
I know one guy.
Not all of them.
I know one guy in there. I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was one that looked really familiar, but I don't know. His name was Raf Tavares.
I knew one guy in there.
But, no. Source point people aside, the Comics Pals guy, I know. Sort of.
You're not going to elaborate?
My twin was also in there too.
My twin. Oh man. So since we are, well, it's time to like look at this little thing over here, this gem of amazing deck cards, which is actually getting an update recently. And this is what we had. Let's see, there we go. This is what we had. We got a grifter wants to obtain a traumatic necklace, or a necklace that has trauma attached to it, but it will mean the corruption of something pure.
Traumatic necklace.
The drama. Woo! Oh man. So Gage, you want to start?
Yeah, I guess I can read mine first. Oof.
Since you completed it first, you get the first on.
Okay, so I threw the gauntlet down first, so.
That's true.
Edwin had planned everything perfectly. The plan was all about retrieving a necklace worn by an Egyptian child who died during the plagues in Egypt. Some thought the biblical plagues. What Edwin thought was the price tag on the necklace's bounty was well worth his time and energy. It had taken months to track the necklace down, but as relics like this did, it had a pattern. There was a sudden spike in child deaths in Las Vegas, Nevada, a hospital with an unusual amount of cases of children getting boils on their skin and, after a few days, dying. Edwin was pretty sure a person, or something worse, was using the relic to bring harm by passing it around to children, and he had been right. Dr. Andrew Ediston, PhD, was something worse. Edwin had thought demon or cultist, but Dr. Ediston was a vampire. Better than a demon, but not much. Why is it never just a cultist? He had wondered to himself. Unfortunately, Dr. Ediston was a vampire with a limited diet that required the blood of ill children. Dr. Ediston's acquisition of the necklace wasn't an accident. Worse was that 30 children had died so far. A car accident had taken little Tia's parents, and she had been recovering for a few weeks. Meanwhile, the hospital was looking for Tia's next of kin, and that made getting to her a little easier. A few hacked local systems and some forged paperwork, and Edwin was certain he could at least get in. The paperwork was a little shoddy, not good enough to pass serious scrutiny, but he was counting on the late hour and only needed a short time to get to the girl's room and get the necklace, then get back out. He was sure it would buy him that kind of time. Thank goodness for Uncle Edwin. When he'd reached Tia's room, he stopped and stared. He hadn't thought it would have this effect, but seeing her, a child, sick and covered in boils, tugged at him despite his normal capability to shrug off the world's ills with his unfathomable greed. The nurse had told him that the boils only seemed to get worse. So far, it refused to respond to medications, and the doctor would probably want to discuss specialists with him. With a sad smile, she left, and Edwin watched her go before entering the room. Tia. Edwin had moved to her bedside, as far away from the door as he could get. Not the best plan when he might need a quick escape, but for his plan to work, he needed the vampire to have to come after him. Tia, wake up. The girl in the bed opened her eyes. She winced in pain and looked at Edwin feverishly. Tia, we have a short amount of time, and I need you to listen. Your doctor is an evil man. The necklace he gave you is the reason you are sick. Tia reached up to place her small fingers on the necklace, and Edwin nodded. Tia, I need you to do 2 things for me. Tia nodded, and he knew she was listening. He hated the pain he saw in her eyes. I need you to give me the necklace. The small girl took the necklace off, her fingers fumbling from sickness and fever, and Edwin felt panic knowing every second brought a higher chance of Dr. Ediston coming along. The necklace could only be removed by the wearer, though. He had no choice but to wait. As the necklace opened, it slipped from the girl's finger and onto the hospital bed and slid beneath Tia's shoulder. Edwin took Tia's hand, placing a small dart in it and looking down at her with urgency. The dart was simple, with just a needle and a small grip no bigger than a cigarette. Tia, Dr. Ediston has been hurting you. When he comes in here, you need to stick him with this dart. The girl lifted the dart to look at it, and Edwin tucked her hand back down against the bed. Tia, if you don't stop the doctor, he'll hurt other children like he has you. Can you stop him? The little girl nodded, and despite the fact that she would have the best opportunity to stick Dr. Ediston, he couldn't help feeling a pang of guilt for leaving the disposal of the not-so-good doctor to her. He turned his focus back to the task of the necklace, slipping a hand under her shoulder and pulling it out from under her before slipping it into his pocket. When he raised his eyes from his task, Dr. Ediston stood in the doorway of the room. The doctor glowered at him, and all hopes that the vampire hadn't seen him place the necklace in his pocket evaporated, and Edwin's blood went cold. Dr. Ediston didn't move so much as he just suddenly appeared on the same side of the hospital bed as Edwin. Edwin tried to back away, barely managing to inhale a sharp breath, but the vampire's hand closed around his throat and lifted him from the floor to slam his back against the wall. Dr. Ediston's face twisted, his jaw distending a bit more than a human's face could, and his fangs extending. "Who do you think you are?" the doctor asked Edwin, but his throat was crushed in the monster's grip. Not that he would have answered anyway. "You come into my territory and try to take my belongings?" Edwin struggled with the vampire's hand. He figured he had about 15 more seconds before the damage through his throat would be bad enough to kill him, whether he could hold his breath or not. He drove his foot into the vampire's thigh, but the not-so-good doctor ignored him, reaching into Edwin's pocket and slowly drawing the necklace free. Edwin watched the girl in the bed as he struggled to keep the blackness that was starting to slip into the edges of his vision at bay, saw the look of terror in her eyes, and he felt any hope that she would come to his aid slipping away. Edwin closed his hand and struck the vampire in the ribs twice, as though he was stabbing him, but he couldn't see if Tia understood or not due to his losing battle with the darkness sitting in on his perception. The vampire snarled, "You should have been better prepared. Then maybe you wouldn't be about to die." The not-so-good doctor's hand closed tighter, and Edwin's eyes rolled back before the doctor suddenly dropped him, jerking downward to yank something from his hip. Tia pulled as far away from the vampire as she could on the bed. As the doctor looked down at the dart he had pulled from his hip, Dr. Edison opened his mouth to cry out, but his body broke down into dust before he could make a sound. His body tumbled away, slowly at first, but faster as it progressed, and Edwin wished he wasn't gasping so desperately for breath as the vampire's disintegrating form plumed into dust about him. The look on Tia's face did nothing to assuage Edwin's feelings of guilt at including her in the vampire's destruction, but had he tried to attack with the dart, the not-so-good doctor would never have allowed him to land the strike. No, this was the only way. Still coughing from the strangulation and the choking dust from the destroyed vampire, Edwin fished about in the dust and rumpled clothes and pulled the necklace from the remains. He struggled up to his feet, using the side of the young girl's bed. Tia watched him with wide eyes, looking terrified and seeming to struggle with her fever and pain. Even still, she looked relieved as Edwin rose from the floor, rubbing his aching throat. "Are you okay?" Edwin asked her, and instantly regretted as speaking made him feel like he was gargling with thumbtacks. Tia nodded and let her body relax back into her hospital bed. Edwin nodded back, not wanting to speak again as he put the necklace into his pocket and moved to leave the room. Tia's strained voice, shaky with adrenaline and sickness, called after him, "Mister, am I going to be okay now?" Edwin stopped, still rubbing his neck, and felt tears well into his eyes. No, she wasn't going to be all right. Removing the necklace had sealed her fate, but the vampire was dead. She would be the last to die. Edwin didn't turn to the girl. He just rasped out, "Sure, kid. You're going to be fine." Edwin left the room without looking back, knowing full well he had just lied to a little girl who had saved his life. She had come through just like he had asked her to, and she didn't deserve to spend her last few days on Earth in terror of death. She was going to die, probably in pain. But should he have lied to her? Edwin stepped into the elevator to leave the hospital. Though Tia's fate was sealed before he had arrived, he couldn't help but feel he had tainted her sacrifice, tainted her saving his life with his own cowardice by lying to her.
Dude, I love the story when I read it. I love it now.
I was tripping over my words there a little bit. I apologize for that.
When it happens, don't worry. It's funny because as many times as we read our own work, we'll get tumbled in the middle of it. At least from my experience.
I have to wonder how those audio book guys who read 39-hour audiobooks must feel. because that's got to be crazy.
I feel like the only way you can do that is in sections.
Yeah, you'd have to, like, in chapters or something.
Here, I'm going to read this chapter today. I'll read this chapter tomorrow. So, take us through your process here. So we got the writer's prompt that's in front of us, and the cards came down, and I know that I almost immediately after I showed it to you, you were like, huh.
Well, the first thing I did was be like, traumatic necklace. What the hell is a traumatic necklace?
I gotta admit that I was sitting there going, traumatic necklace? How do you do a traumatic necklace? But it kind of makes sense in a way if you don't take it literally.
Yeah.
Like it's a traumatic necklace. The necklace is going to cause trauma.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much what it does in your story. Because of the necklace, it's caused a lot of trauma. It's caused a lot of deaths. So you actually do a good job of bringing out the traumatic necklace.
So my process was I paced, I think, for an hour and a half. Trying to come up with a character name and what the necklace was, and then I sat down and wrote it. And I think that took me like 3 hours with rereading it and editing it and rereading it and editing it and rereading it and editing it. So, and then I sent it to you. That was my process.
It's always funny especially when we with the writer's prompts. It's always interesting to see each writer's direction with what's going on.
My process is usually pacing outside and thinking it through while smoking cigarettes, and then I go and sit down at my computer and write, or sit on my phone and write. In this case, I wrote it on my phone because I have a habit of doing that.
My process usually there's some kind of storm that happens in my head, and then I try to figure out how to put all that together.
So a lot of times,
let's put that and that over here. Let's take that, put it over there.
So a lot of times outlines and stuff will happen if you have those, or will help a lot if you have those kind of storms. I get those from time to time, but usually like I'll just get the beginning, and then the story comes out as I'm writing. Like I didn't know what was going to happen throughout it. I kind of had an idea of who I wanted the villain to be, and then what the necklace was, and and then I just kind of sat down and wrote, and it did its own thing. Sometimes I don't even feel like I'm writing it,
I kind of feel you.
Sometimes I just have to let it take off with its own life and see what happens. And then if it starts to get out of hand, then I'll calm down and be like, all right. I'm 12 and a half pages in. I need to calm down a little bit unless I want
I need to figure this out. It was so funny because it was the same thing with me. I sat there and I was like, okay, the only way I'm going to be able to put this through, because I was writing it like you were, and somewhere in the middle of it, I was like, okay, this something needs to happen here. And what ended up happening was I went back to my DM roots, and I'm like, okay, so if players were playing this, how would this go? Because in the middle of the story, I sat there going, where am I going? What's happening? The story was writing itself, but at the same time, I'm like, where are we going with this?
See, and a lot of times I know what the beginning of a story is and what the ending of a story is. It's filling in the sandwich meat between the bread that kills me.
Oh, that's
So it's like a runaway train, and you just got to try to like bring it back.
Yeah, you're trying to get it from point A to point C, but B wants to go everywhere, and you got to try and keep it on track,
All right, let's see how this goes. I'm probably gonna stumble more than you did, so we'll see. All right, let's put that thing back up, and let's see where Ralph went with this. He could feel the blood running down his arm. He could hear the creature moving, bones crunching under its huge feet. His breathing was becoming more and more shallow. Moving caused him unbearable pain, the pain of many daggers being dragged across his whole body. The necklace was in his hand as the blood poured over the once stunning jewelry. He swore that once blue gems now glowed blood red. but he couldn't tell through his own blood. How did this go wrong? This was the last job. With the payoff, he could live like a king with his daughter. He could give her the life she deserves. Take her out of this life of bounties and rewards. What had he made her? A warrior, a thief? She was just like him. But what was he meant to do when his wife died? It was easier just to take her with him, keep her safe, teach her to live, to fight, to make her own way in the world of hate. He had taught her well. She had surpassed him. He was so proud. He coughed and blood poured from his mouth. He knew the beast had hurt him. He was trying to stifle his slowly dying body. He heard the massive beast coming closer, the thoom, thoom, thoom of its steps. Yet his thoughts were with his comrades. He had promised them riches and brought them death. 7 had entered this cavern of death. 5 now laid around him, broken and dead or dying. They fought valiantly, but this beast laid waste to them all. Each had protected his daughter as if she were theirs. She had grabbed the necklace from its pedestal, attempting to prove to him that she was useful. He was angry that she would disobey him, yet so proud when she ran through the traps as if they were nothing. She was so happy she won the necklace, but none of them knew the price the necklace would ask for. The beast that would be released from the bowels of the underworld. The foul stench reminded him that the beast was close. Its putrid hot breath crawled across the floor to greet him where he laid. The thoom of the steps were close, and soon he would meet the Creator. Yet a smile crossed his face as he thought of his daughter. She was so angry when he pushed her through the doorway, knocking her away from the beast's huge maw, saving her from the bite, but being crushed himself in its bite. Sinking his blade into its jaw, making the beast crash into the walls of the cavern, the rubble came crashing down, separating his daughter from death. When the beast roared in pain, he was tossed, landing hard on the ground. He laughed, thinking how lucky he was to land on the necklace, chuckling about lunch, and again coughing out blood. This time he knew for sure the beast had hurt him. From around the rubble raised the dragon, roaring and preparing to spew its fire. He smiled and looked up at the dragon, saying, "Come at me, you ugly son of a bitch." A scream of anger and fierceness ripped through the cavern, echoing like a boom of thunder. His daughter had come from nowhere. In mid-leap she was as her blade sunk into the dragon, and a huge explosion erupted. The dragon screamed in pain, and his daughter went flying, hitting the ground and bouncing a couple of times. The sound she made when she hit made him sick to his stomach. He jumped up, running to his daughter. He gently cradled her in his arms as tears streamed from his face. He could barely hear the cries of pain of the dragon. All he heard was his daughter's shallow breathing. She looked at him weakly, smiled, and took her last breath. He felt the rage erupt from him as the dragon now turned its attention to him. He stood up, necklace still in his hand, defiantly staring at the dragon. A guttural roar escaped from his mouth as lightning sparked up from his daughter to the necklace and through him, exploding and cascading of electricity that slammed into the cavern, the dragon, the bodies of his comrades. The dragon emitted a sound piercing to the ear as it exploded into chunks. Rocks shattered and dust filled the air. For a long moment, all was in darkness. A breeze blew clearing the dust from the air. He stood clothes and armor a tatter, tears falling like rain from his eyes. He dropped to his knees, scooping up his daughter into his arms. He did not notice when Clara slowly stood, when Dinar got up, when Kapar got to his feet, when Alyssa arose, when Cesar appeared behind him. They all gathered around him as he held his daughter, sobbing uncontrollably. In the back of his mind, he remembered the curse of the necklace, the one he had made fun of, the one he had ignored, and in his daughter's sacrifice, he had gained what he sought, but had lost everything. He felt the power within coursing through him. His companions felt it breathing through them. The necklace shone brightly, sparkling in the dark, yet he would give it all up for her. He held her tightly, dropping the necklace, and they all stood there silently as he held her and cried.
I like that we both went with kind of like a relic chaser, bounty hunter style grifter.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense when you have a grifter doing this whole thing.
That was something I was struggling with because I was like, nah, I don't want him to just be like a supernatural hunter. He's got to do some stuff like hacking and other stuff like that makes him griftery.
Oh my God, yeah, it was so much fun putting this together, and and in my head, which is funny, and I say it a lot that D&D helps me out a lot when it comes to writing, and it just started to form into a D&D campaign.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. When I finally put the D&D people into the campaign, it made sense. This was a botched role.
And for me, like, my roots in role playing are in Vampire the Masquerade, so
you can feel it in
that's kind of where I kind of harken back to.
You can feel it in that story. I felt the Masquerade in there. I was waiting for like a Gangrel to show up or something.
Well, I mean, like the limited diet, that's the Ventru.
Yeah, that's true.
They have to have certain types of blood and stuff like that, and it just kind of came out in there.
Oh man, it was so much fun to do. I gotta admit, I love the story engine deck. It actually is a great way to just write whatever. Sometimes you don't know what to write, and then you pull out the deck and do the whole scatter of story here, and finally, and then you got to figure things out, like a traumatic necklace.
Traumatic necklace. I think that's what I said to you too. Like, what the heck is a traumatic necklace?
It was funny because the necklace kind of came through. I was like, okay, again, D&D thinking wise, you're like, okay, well, there's enough necklaces out there that cause enough issues.
Yeah.
When you were setting up a story.
With D&D, you just got to watch out for anything that's got intelligence.
Exactly.
That's when stuff gets dangerous. You pick up that sword and it starts talking to you, put it back down.
You're in trouble, yeah. I gotta admit, when it came to the corruption of something pure, I was like, I felt like I kind of like played with it a little bit. I didn't give it completely, but I think I see you did the same thing. It wasn't completely the corruption of something pure. It was, but it wasn't. In my story, it was the sacrifice and the blood, and she causes this whole reaction to happen, which is some kind of this pure-hearted hero ends up losing because of that. In your story, the corruption is the fact that instead of telling her the truth, first he makes her complacent to the murder of the vampire.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of corruption going on there. And then he lies to her.
That's the one I was going for with the corruption of something pure, was making the little girl do the dirty work.
Oh man, I really enjoyed your story. I really liked it. I can see why people would like to play some role-playing games with you.
And yeah, reading the story, writing the whole thing, that's a lot different than storytelling. Setting a scene and letting players kind of decide what's going on is much easier than that.
It's so much easier. Yeah, because they're forming the story for you.
I talk about game mastering like fishing. I build story hooks and throw them out there, and I wait for them to bite. And then when they bite one, I'm like, okay, this is my story. This is what the players want to do.
Exactly. Love doing the stuff to the gamers. All right, folks. Let's see what we got over here. Of course, just a reminder, go and support Right or Wrong, Dirk Manning's book on writing comics, and it's so much more than that. You should go check it out. It really is something that was very helpful in formulating my writing of comics. I already had the script ideas and all that come down to where I wanted to, but I feel like this got to the nitty-gritty of what comic writing is. The stuff they don't tell you about. Oh, look, it went up. They're at 5,034 now. 101 backers. 22 days to go. More than enough time to get him up there. Dude, you know a writer in your life, get him this book. You want to write comics, get this book. There's so many reasons why you should just go get this book.
I gotta ask, what's with the Undertaker gear?
So that's
go ahead.
It's kind of like a persona of sorts that he. I mean, it's. I don't think he's ever actually worn that stuff.
Okay.
So.
Okay,
yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
The character is being Dirk.
Okay.
Well, I think he like cosplayed it 1 year, but
He's done it every year at Comic-Con.
yeah,
he kind of wears it.
Yeah.
Most of the times we see him, I know I've seen him twice wear it or wear something like it.
Right.
Depends. If the AC is on, he's in the full getup.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting. I like the fact that he has his own writer's persona. I think all writers should have a persona.
I think that persona even predates him in turning into comics.
Probably.
So
let's see what we got here. Jordan put up Jane American. Folks, go check out Jane American. It's a beautiful little book set in the 40s. It really is. Of course, it's not popping up. There it goes. Okay. They're at, whoa, damn, 10,013, 152 backers, 20 days to go. He's doing pretty well.
Yeah, damn.
That was a quick boost, though, because last
Yeah, it
time I
was.
saw, he wasn't there.
Yeah, I think last time I looked, he was just like 9,000 something.
Last time I looked, he was still down below
Because he got that the last time I looked, he had the first stretch goal unlocked. So, yeah.
Well, check out Jane American. It's fantastic. We, of course, had the interview with him last Monday. Yeah, last Monday. And you guys really should support this book. It's a beautiful story. And I know he said it to be of his grandmother. And, it's dedicated to her and her strong will. And it's a strong character. It's beautiful. And it does have a very good 40s feel to it.
Also, to answer your question there, Gage, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I follow that guy. Like, his stuff's awesome.
Yeah, you'll be seeing that here in a second once he pulls it up.
Oh, Shrine?
Yeah.
Shrine. Ooh. A possessed doll seeks vengeance.
Yep.
Damn, 40,000, 26, 520 backers. Yep. 21 days to go. Woo!
This guy's a beast, though. Like, I keep seeing his art on Twitter, and it's just freaking awesome.
Man, I'm just looking at this here. It looks beautiful.
So he does another book called Metal something.
Star Galactica?
Yeah, no.
Battlestar Galactica.
It's Metal something. I just can't think.
Metal Gear Solid 8.
Metal Gear Solid 3 getting a remake at the PlayStation Showcase. Yeah. No.
Who even plays PlayStation?
I do.
Who can even afford a 5, man?
I wonder.
So Monday. Join us for Stranger Comics, where Sebastian will be here to talk to us about his new Kickstarter that is releasing on Sunday. So do yourself a favor, go check out Tales of Asunda and hit that notify button, just like I'm going to do right now. Let's see if it actually goes through. Or did I do it already? I probably did.
Oh, wait.
759 followers. Nice.
Yeah. And of course, people, I tell you all the time that it's important to hit those follows on these things because it actually helps out with the algorithms. There we go. And it's really important. You want us to have the Kickstarter start off in a good place, and this one is going to start off in a great place. And of course, you can't forget that next Wednesday on the Writtenwrit, we will have Rob Powers joining us talking about Cataclysm. And you can do the same thing with his book, because his book is releasing on the 15th, which is Monday. So go sign up to get notified.
There's I forgot about those two.
And of course, at the same time, we have our pal from Corrupt Moon, Nick Hughes, and he will be here as well next Wednesday, showing off his Corrupt Moon. And of course, that book is over there ready for you guys to sign up to notify, because this stuff really helps out.
Angel's got a cover on that one, right?
Oh, Angel has a cover on both of them. Son of Saint has a cover on both of them. So if you want a Son of Saint cover, you can pick both of the books. Because we love Son of Saint here.
This one's cool looking. I've been looking at the art for this one for a little bit.
Yeah, the Corrupt Moon looks amazing. And I love the Cataclysm from Rob, because I love Pinguino's Revenge, and he did a fantastic job with it. And of course, Phil Russard's Tragedy will be kicking off on Tuesday, May 16th. And I think we might have him here Wednesday with the guys to talk about Tragedy as well. So it's going to be a busy Wednesday.
I've never been on a stream with Phil. I've only ever talked to him on Facebook.
Well, there you go. If Gage joins us next Wednesday, he can talk to Phil in person or computer or whatever.
It counts as in person nowadays.
Let's see. I think Jordan threw a couple things over here.
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
Oh, yes. I want to talk about this one. Another one that's ready to notify me on launch. My little bunny friend here, Horus in Hell, #1, the Demented Saturday Morning cartoon. You guys have to support this one. Come on, guys.
Yep.
We all want to know what happened to Horus. Oh, man.
The next one's very special, too.
Good Boy, final collection.
Yes.
The last time I'll ever get to see Good Boy.
There you go, Good Boy, the vinyl.
Yep. And there's more than there's going to be like a bunch of different designs and stuff too, as far as I know.
Wow, that's a lot of Kickstarter starting soon.
I know.
And I think there's one more in here. Oh no, this is an Instagram.
No, well, it's not an Instagram.
Drum roll, please. Of course, my computer is acting up. So, there we go. Oh yeah, I just shared this earlier to the Bit and Apple page. Alanier looks fantastic, and I saw this and I just had to share the hell out of it.
Oh, Ralph, this is a class.
I know. This looks beautiful.
Shouldn't we promote the class that you can join up and take a class from an amazingly talented artist?
Well, that's more up your alley, so I'm guessing you saying it would make more sense. Go for it, bro.
I just did.
Say it again.
No, you just try to segue it. You segue it. You don't just blast it. You segue through it. You got LTT style it.
All I know is this looked fantastic. I saw it. I shared the hell out of it. If you guys want to learn something, go check it out. I feel like we're teaching a lot today. Let's see. Is that everything? I think that is everything. My computer looks like it should die in a minute. I think we got
not being able to play Honkai Star Rail.
Am I forgetting something, guys?
I think you just about covered it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Join us next time for a smash or pass tier list of Honkai Star Rail.
You would. All right, folks. This has been the Writtenwrit. Go support all these beautiful Kickstarters we showed you. Go sign up to be notified. Go get yourself some Right or Wrong, because this book will really help you out.
Yep.
With that, I'll do what I always do. I'll press the button and